Thank you so much for being here and allowing me to speak. Again, my name is Caitlin. I am the Advancement Associate for Paws for Purple Hearts San Diego. And Paws for Purple Hearts is a nonprofit organization that provides free service dogs to veterans. That's a little bit about us, and I'll dive more into our history in just a second. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'm going to be discussing the difference between service animals and emotional support animals today. It is very content heavy, as she said, so there will be some links that I'll provide in case you all want to get some more information, and then feel free again to ask me any questions you have. A little bit about us. Paws for Purple Hearts is dedicated to improving the lives of America's warriors facing trauma-related conditions like post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, and then mobility-related trauma as well. And we do so by providing the highest quality service dogs and canine-assisted therapeutic programs. Our history: we were founded in 2006 at Bergen University of Canine Studies. This is actually a university that we are partnered with, and all of our service dog trainers got their degree or some type of higher education in service dog training from there. We started as a pilot program up in Menlo Park, California, and now we have a full range of programs at 5 locations across the United States. So we're in Alaska, Northern California in Menlo Park, Ruther Glen, Virginia, San Antonio, Texas, and then San Diego, California, which is where I'm from. We do offer our services completely free to warriors, so we serve both active duty military as well as veterans. We have a program called Canine Assisted Warrior Therapy, where we actually enlist the help of veterans and service members to train our dogs. So we teach them our training methods, and then they get to take part in training dogs that will eventually be placed with their fellow comrades. And then again, we provide service dogs specifically for those with mobility limitations or trauma-related conditions like PTSD. And we provide specialist therapy dogs. So these are dogs that will get paired with a mental health or licensed clinical professional, and they will utilize the dogs in their therapeutic services with veterans. And then we also have facility dogs. So these will be puppies and dogs that are placed at VA sites or any site that's really serving veterans and active duty service members. And the dog's just there to provide boost morale and just provide a friendly face for those folks there. All right, so that's a little bit about us. Now I want to dive into service animals versus emotional support animals. If I see a chat. Okay, so service animals versus emotional support. Before we get started, I really just want to cover this idea of generally and it happens. You're going to hear this a lot throughout the presentation. Laws regarding service animals and emotional support animals vary greatly, whether it's from state to state or even business to business. Airlines, grocery stores, hospitals, they all kind of have a little bit of different things that happen in regulations. So it is a very, very complicated subject matter. I'm going to do what I can to provide a general outline of the differences between the two. But if you are thinking about getting a dog or an emotional support animal, it's really important after this presentation to also look into, obviously everyone here is from California, but look into a state that you might be traveling to in the near future, and just the base that you might be located at in the future as well. All right, so first the ADA. The ADA is an equal opportunity law for folks with disabilities, and this is the act that protects and regulates the rights of service animals. So this is a really great place to look if you're looking for information. So just go to the ADA website for more details if there's anything that I can't answer for you today. All right, and what is a service dog? So under the ADA, a service dog is defined as a dog that is individually trained to do work for or perform a task for an individual with a disability. And that task or job performed by the dog must directly be related to the person's disability. So those keywords are really, really important in defining a service dog. And those are going to be the differences compared to an emotional support animal, which I'll touch on in just a second. There are several types of service dogs. There's hearing assistance dogs. So those are dogs that will work with folks who are deaf or hard of hearing to help determine different noises. Let's say an alarm goes off or somebody rings the doorbell. Those dogs are trained to alert those folks. Guide dogs for people who are blind or have trouble seeing. Diabetic alert dogs are dogs that can detect highs and lows of blood pressure and also alert someone if somebody faints from that. Allergy detection dogs can sniff out specific allergens, like peanut butter is a good one, and alert someone if they sense that smell. Seizure response dogs can protect someone if they're having a seizure by putting their head underneath or responding to it by going and getting someone. And autism assistance dogs can do a wide variety of things to assist children and folks with autism. And then the two types of dogs that we train are the mobility assistants and psychiatric. So those that work with folks who have a limited mobility all the way to being quadriplegic, or psychiatric service dogs, which help intervene during stressful situations, anxiety attacks, if PTSD, night terrors, etc. So an emotional support animal is a little bit different in the sense that it's a companion animal. So the presence of the dog is going to provide comfort to an individual with a disability, but they don't necessarily perform a task to mitigate that person's disability. So for an emotional support animal, there's going to be no training required. And because of this, they are not covered under the American Disabilities Act. So they don't have the same public access rights as an assistance dog and its handler. They are covered under fair housing and air carrier access, which I'll cover in just a moment. But that's the main difference, is that they are not trained to intervene and to mitigate someone's disability. They're going to provide comfort, but because of the lack of training, they are not covered and they do not have access to all the places that a service dog would have access to. Down at the bottom here, I have a note that some local governments may allow you to have an emotional support animal in public. So again, it's just one of those things you'll have to check if you're interested, depending on where you're going to be. All right, so a big example of this is a PTSD service dog versus an emotional support dog. I like to show this example because it's a very, very subtle difference. So the ADA does make a distinction between these two. Some people wonder, how is a PTSD service dog any different from an emotional support animal? And that is because a psychiatric service dog is actually trained to respond to an anxiety attack or a night terror, and take a specific action to help avoid it or lessen the impact. So that's the main difference you can see there, where an emotional support animal is going to provide comfort to the person, but they may not be able to pick up on it. They may not actually actively intervene. Just the presence of them may provide comfort. And then a little bit of an easier breakdown for you to see the differences is, again, service dogs are trained to perform a task to mitigate the disability, where an emotional support animal is just going to provide comfort to somebody who has a disability. For a service dog, command training is required, where an emotional support animal, it is not required. And then in a service dog, they are allowed in all the places that the general public is allowed because they're protected under the ADA, where an emotional support or companion dog is not allowed and they are not protected under the ADA. So that's the main differences when it comes to a service dog and an emotional support animal. So it's important to think about the reason that you might need one of these companion animals. Are you thinking that you're going to need it when you're going out in public, or is it going to be okay for you to just use them in your home for comfort purposes? Okay. And now some frequently asked questions. I do have some questions in here from you all, and then I added a few more that I thought were important. And then at the end, I'll have some resources for you all to check out as well. So the first are training frequently asked questions. So for instance, what are the steps, the costs, the type of training needed, the best and most inexpensive ways to train a dog, and then how to make your own pet a service animal or an emotional support animal. These are some of the questions that we get really often. So I just want to start off with Paws for Purple Heart service dogs and our training process specifically. So this is specific to our organization, although a lot of other service dog training organizations may be similar. I think we got a question.
So the question is, Do you want me to read it out? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay. The question is, I have been having issues with my personal service dog of actually doing her tasks. Do you know where I can go visit these issues?
So I don't know specifically of an organization that is going to take an outside dog at the moment. But I'll go into a really helpful resource, which is Assistance Dog International. And that is an accreditation program that has a really strict process to become accredited. So they have a lot of reliable and trustworthy trainers and service dog organizations. So I would definitely recommend looking into one of those to see, or one of the folks on their website to see if they have folks that might be able to help work throughout those issues. And then if the dog was trained by a specific organization, I would definitely reach out to that organization, and they should have a team or some folks that will be able to work through those issues with you. So hopefully that helps. If not, I can talk to you after as well, see if we can find some resources for you. All right. So for Paws for Purple Heart specifically, it does take us anywhere from 2 to 2.5 years to train our dogs. It's a lot of exposure and socialization to new things. Oops, they do learn upwards of 100 commands. So depending on where they're going to go, they learn anywhere from 70 to 100, and it will be for both mobility and folks with PTSD. So they'll learn different ways to intervene with both of those challenges. And then they will be matched on both the need and personality of the dog and the warrior. So we do take into consideration the personality and the type of lifestyle that the warrior will have. Um, and then we have a 2-week client training. So once you get a service dog or once you get matched, we have 2 weeks where where you will learn to work with the dog and the dog will learn to work with you. And that's where if there's anything specific that you need and that you know is going to be an issue that comes up for you, if you have a specific, let's say you have anxiety when you're in certain spots or there's certain triggers that you have, that's when we would just talk about those and make sure that the dog is fit to work through that with you. And then we do require all of our dogs to pass the ADI, which is Assistance Dogs International Public Access Test. So this is a set of standards for service dogs, public etiquette, and how they need to act out in public. This is really, really important and a requirement for all of our dogs to graduate. So a couple of them, it's a really long list, but one is being well-mannered in public in general. So that means not barking, not going to the bathroom inappropriately, not being distracted by things easily. We don't want them to be reactive to other dogs. So another dog should be able to walk down or walk near it without them barking, lunging, or even really being interested in the dog. Heeling, so walking nicely next to the person without pulling, ignoring folks in public, recall without distraction. So if the dog's name is called, they should be able to look at the person and react to the person. Not eating food off the ground, being appropriate when being pet by a stranger, being comfortable with children, staying out of the way. So we like to call our service dogs unobtrusive helpmates. So we want them to help our people wherever they can and whenever they can, but we also don't want them to get in the way in public. So you can see that first photo there, the dog is underneath the chair. And we try to do that at restaurants, anywhere really, at a doctor's office, just to keep them out of the way, out of walkways. They need to stay with their person even if the leash is dropped. Okay being handled by someone else. They need to be okay and confident loading and unloading from the car and not fearful of new people, places, and things. That's probably one of the most important, is that they need to be okay whether it's a shopping cart or somebody steps over them when they're laying on the floor or there's a loud noise because something drops. They can't get spooked or it could affect their warrior that they're with. All right. So, like I said, our service dog training options, we would recommend personally going through an accredited service dog training organization. So if you don't have a service dog yet, this is what I would do, is go through Assistance Dog International and find a place near you. Generally, this is also going to be the cheapest option. Most organizations will provide you with a free service dog. The trade-off there is that it might take a little bit longer. Like I said, it can take up to 2.5 years to actually train a dog. But this is just really a good way for like to legitimize an organization. It's a really extensive process to get accredited. So these are very trusted orgs and trainers. It's usually an online application, and then there's interviews and everything. So definitely that. Private training for your personal dog is also an option. So I would recommend going the accredited route, but if you already have a dog that you want to train specifically to be your service dog, this is definitely still an option. You can still look through ADI's website because some of them will actually take an outside dog and help train for it. Another option is to participate in canine good citizen exams or behavioral tests, obedience classes and things like that, just to make sure that your dog will react properly in public. And then also that ADI public access. So even though it's not a requirement, it's a really good rule of thumb to ensure that your dog has the proper public etiquette to be a service dog. All right. So a couple of other questions. Can my service dog be any breed? So technically the answer is yes. ADA does not restrict the type of dog breeds that can be service animals, but a lot of military installations do have restrictions on the specific dog breeds in general. So just make sure that you're connecting with wherever you're going to be living and talk to them about the specific breed of your service dog. For our organization in specifically, we use purpose-bred labs, golden retrievers, and lab golden crosses. So we do that because they have calm temperaments, they enjoy working, they have soft mouths for retrieving, they're loving, good size for like their body if somebody needs to brace or use the dog to help them stand, and they have a decent lifespan as well. So those are some reasons of the breed that we choose to use. So do service animals have to wear a vest or a patch or special harness identifying them as service animals? So the ADA does not require that. So the answer is no. But we do use them, one, because it can help the dog distinguish between free time and work, but most of it is actually to signal to the public that it's really important that you do not interact with this dog. That's the main reason that someone would want to use a vest on their dog, is just to say, hey, this dog is working. A lot of people will have the do not pet tag on their vest, and it's more of to the public to notify them, please do not interact with the dog. Does the ADA require that service animals be certified as service animals? So technically, again, no. So covered entities cannot require that you have documentation like a certificate, a license, as a condition for entry. But this is also the reason that there's a lot of fake service dogs in that's why the reputation of them is sometimes like diminished. People won't believe that it's a service dog, etc. So the reason that the ADI standards are really important is because that's just the best way to distinguish if a dog is a service dog or not, is by their behavior. That's really the best way to tell. That being said, people actually sell service dog certificates online and registration documents online. They do not count. So I would not recommend ever buying one. It doesn't do anything for the ADA and is not actually a valid legal document. So just something to keep in mind. All right. So what are the 2 questions that businesses can ask about your service animal? Oops. One is the service animal required because of a disability? And 2, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? So they're allowed to ask those questions, but they can't request documentation. Like I said, they can't require that the dog demonstrates a task or ask about the nature of the person's disability. But they are protected by, they are allowed to ask you to remove your service animal if the animal is not behaving. So again, that's where that ADI public access test comes in. So if they're going to the bathroom inappropriately, if they're excessively barking, if a dog barks one time, that's okay. But if they're excessively barking or they're aggressive towards someone or the handler is unable to control the dog, businesses are actually allowed to ask you to leave. or at least ask the dog to leave. So in that case, if you still need assistance, you can ask someone there to replace the dog or what the dog might do for you if it's a mobility limitation and you need help reaching things up high or grabbing things off the shelf. But they can actually ask you to remove your dog. A couple other examples of when a service dog is excluded or cannot go to certain areas is if the dog would fundamentally alter the nature of a service or program is what the language is for the ADA. So for example, the zoo. Service dogs can be restricted from areas in the zoo where the dogs might be a natural predator of an animal there, or where the dog might be disruptive or cause animals to behave aggressively or become really stressed and agitated. Another example of this is the hospital. So it's definitely appropriate for a dog to be in the waiting room or in a room with a patient, but it would not be appropriate for the dog to be in the operating room or burn unit where an animal's present might compromise the sterile environment. So just some things to think about as well. Another question we got was, what are schools obligated to do for service dogs and emotional support animals? Again, that answer, it depends. They're legally allowed in school under the ADA, but the ADA also requires that service animals are under the control of the handler at all times. So that means that the student must be able to manage and control the animal. So if the student is young or the parent is the handler of the dog, then they won't be able to be there because the school can't require or can't provide someone else to handle the dog or to replace the handler if it's not the child. So again, the handler is responsible for caring for, supervising the animals, including going to the bathroom, feeding, grooming, vet care. And then, like I said, the entities are not obligated to supervise or care for the animal. So again, it kind of depends on the abilities of the child and their age if they're able to work with the dog. Another note, some school districts may want you to register your dog within the school or have specific requirements. So one of those things, again, you just need to be sure to check in with the administration. It's always good to kind of give a heads up so that it's not a surprise and so that it doesn't complicate things for yourself. Another thing, the laws for traveling with a service dog or an emotional support animal. So both of these are covered under the Air Carrier Access Act. So similar to the ADA, but it does include emotional support animals. So this prohibits the discrimination on the basis of a disability in air travel. But airlines actually can request specific documentation or 48 hours advance notice for an emotional support animal or a psychiatric service dog. The documentation is generally must be from within the last year and explain the need for the dog, and it needs to be provided or signed by a licensed mental health professional. So they can exclude animals that are too large, that pose a direct threat, that cause significant disruption, are prohibited for entering a foreign country. So again, it kind of depends on where you're going with your dog, what kind of animal it is. So it's really important, again, to check in with your airline wherever you're going to be traveling. And a couple other important things when traveling. Foreign airlines operating to and from the US are only required to accept dogs. So even though emotional support animals in general are allowed on flights, such as a cat, foreign airlines are only required to work with dogs. Airlines are also never required to accept snakes, reptiles, ferrets, rodents, sugar gliders, and spiders. Requirements for and what types of emotional support animals can vary. So that's why they make that distinction that those will never be allowed on an aircraft. And recommend checking in with your airline prior to the date of your flight to avoid complications for yourself. So it's always nice if you just call and say, hello, I'm going to have an emotional support animal. What kind of documentation do you need? Because they could potentially ask for it. So it's better to be prepared in the case that they deny you access onto the flight. And then if you all want to watch this later, it's about 5-minute video that goes in depth into air travel. And again, these are just some of the resources. So these are where the top two are where I got the most of the frequently asked questions, and where the ADA specifically outlines the requirements for service dogs and their public access rights. So definitely take a look into that. The third link is the one to traveling with your service dog or emotional support animal. And then the last one is Assistance Dogs International's website, where you can find a list of accredited service dog organizations that you might want to work with. All right. Are there any questions for me?
And during this time, just to let everyone know, I'm sorry that I forgot to cover it, that if you choose to unmute yourself, your voice will be captured in this recording. However, if you want to use the chat box, please feel free to do so. Either myself or Miss Elizabeth will read your question out loud. We're more than happy to do that. Oh, what's an example of a specific task a service dog would perform for PTSD symptoms?
That's a great question. So we actually teach our dogs to nudge. So for instance, we have a dog named Drew, and his trainer Sela has taught him that anytime he sees her legs shaking or her hands like over her face, that he goes and he will consistently nudge her legs with his nose until she shifts her focus and starts paying attention to him and pets him. So he will literally keep on going and hitting her leg until she pays attention to him. So that's like a grounding technique and a way for, again, for them to just shift their focus and whatever they're thinking about, for them to stop and to focus on the dog instead. And we also teach them to do a command, which is lay on. So another grounding technique where they would just apply pressure and lay right on top of the chest of the warrior. So it depends on kind of the symptoms. If they notice that the person's having a nightmare and is shaking, that's something that we work with them during that 2-week training. But those are two that we do specifically for PTSD, is that lay on command and then that nudge command. Great question.
Yeah.
And that's another, again, example of the difference between emotional support and psychiatric service dogs. That type of service dog can be very touchy because people always wonder, well, how are they different from emotional support? And that's a prime example, is that a service dog that's trained for PTSD will actually notice those symptoms and actively try to mitigate, where an emotional support animal will just be there and the warrior can pet them and hopefully that will help calm them down.
Awesome.
And
Thank you
again,
for
this is all of my contact information. So again, I'm Caitlin. At the very bottom, that's my phone number. So if anybody has any further questions, or you know someone who needs a service dog at another location, we have, like I said, we have 5 across the United States. If you're interested in volunteering, anything like that, we have lots of amazing opportunities. So feel free to reach out.
Yes, and I'll be sure to link out Miss Caitlin's email in the final email so then you guys can easily grab that. I know we had a question from one attendee that they would like to connect you with later, Caitlin. So I will do that just to let you know as well as the attendee know.
Great. Thank you. And I'm sorry it was so long. I know it's a lot of information and a lot of reading and everything. So thanks for bearing with me.
Oh, it was wonderful. You answered all of our questions, all the questions that I sent you. It was it was fabulous. So thank you.
Good. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
And now we have Miss Laura from the Humane Society. So think a few of our families are local, and so this should be very applicable for our families here within San Diego. And they offer amazing programs. So I'm excited to have her here.
Thanks so much, Jordan. I'm really happy to be here, and hopefully I'll be able to answer any other questions related to what San Diego Humane Society offers. And feel free if you have any other questions just related, not necessarily to the topic of service animals versus emotional support animals, but anything related to the Humane Society, I'm happy to answer either during the presentation or afterwards. I can share my email address as well. Can everyone hear me okay? Is this all right? I'm gonna share my screen.
Sounds great. And we can hear you all right.
Great. Oops. All right, can everyone see that okay?
You look good.
Great. So we do get a lot of questions related to a lot of what Caitlin has already covered, so I won't spend too much time on that. But one extra thing that I will throw in, just to confuse the topic even more, is therapy animals, because we do have a pet-assisted therapy program, and that term also gets thrown around and maybe interjected with service animals and emotional support animals. And so I manage our pet therapy program. I don't train service animals. I don't certify service animals, but I do tend to get a lot of those questions because of our pet assisted therapy program. So I'll talk a little bit about that, and also what we do to support families with pets of any kind and those with service animals as well. Oops. All right, so again, Caitlin already really covered this really well, talking about the differences between service dogs and emotional support animals. Again, an emotional support animal can be any species, but here we're talking about dogs mostly. But this chart I just found really helpful to distinguish between them and as well as therapy dogs. And it talks about what kind of rights they have covered versus what they don't. And for therapy animals, really these animals have no legal protections when it comes to housing, when it comes to entering any public business or transportation, airplanes, buses, anywhere like that. They have to be invited to visit. So our program, we share, you can see Noriko here with her dog Miley, she's sharing her dog at a senior living facility, and they have to be invited there. So even though the facility does not allow pets on site, they've invited us there, trusting that we have certified the animals in our program, that they will be behaviorally and medically safe to interact with the residents there. But they have no legal right to be there because they're a therapy animal team. And this is someone who owns the animal. I think Caitlin touched a little bit on like a therapy animal that lives at a facility, which is another type of animal that can be trained for that role. But in our case, we have animal ambassadors, we call them. They're not performing any true therapeutic work. We don't know the diagnosis of the people that we visit. We go from anything from senior living, psychiatric hospitals, we go to schools, we go to juvenile detention. We don't necessarily know what brings the people to the places that we're visiting. We're just there to bring a little bit of joy, interact. We might be part of a treatment plan, but we're not aware of it. So the staff there might have the idea that, you know, the dog is going to play fetch and that's going to help with some physical rehabilitation, or coming out and interacting might provide some pro-social interaction that's part of their treatment plan. But our volunteers and their animals are not trained to do a specific task like a service dog would, and the people that they meet vary in their needs. So the dog just has to be obedience trained, so they're not allowed to, of course, be jumping up on people or grabbing food off the tables or barking. They're not allowed to go to the bathroom, obviously, in the facilities. So they have been trained, and we have our own assessment that we conduct in order to pick dogs and other animals. We actually have some other animals that participate, including a pig, in our program. And that's mostly a social behavioral assessment. And then we also do have them go through a medical assessment to make sure that they don't carry any zoonotic diseases that could be transferred to the people that we visit, many of whom have compromised immune systems. So to throw that in there, I thought this would be a fun little quiz I could do real quick, and showing the different animals over here and their pictures and what we think maybe this animal's role is. So I already shared with you up here, we have a therapy dog. Does anyone want to take a guess at what is going on here, what this dog's role is? We have a person who's covering their face and the dog that is coming up to them and approaching them. Any guesses? Would this be a service dog, a therapy dog, or an emotional support dog or animal? So this one I only know because I read the article associated with it, but this is actually a service dog. So this dog has been trained to nudge the person when they are having a panic attack. So this is someone that's diagnosed with a panic disorder, and the dog has been trained to do tasks specifically related to that. So that does make them a service animal. how about right here? We have a dog who's turning on a light. Service dog, yeah, this is a service dog. So they're actually performing a task. So someone might not be able to get to that light switch themselves. They might do other tasks like pick things up or help with mobility issues or guide someone who's unable to see. So that would be also considered a service dog. And then we have one more dog down here who is sitting nicely with this person, spending some quality time with them, emotional support. Yes, and of course, we can't tell just from the picture. This dog, could potentially be trained to do a task for this person. But in this scenario, what I'm assuming is that this person is just providing or the dog is just providing comfort and wellness to a person who might have a diagnosis of a mental illness. And so the thing here I really want to emphasize is emotional support versus therapy dog versus service dog. We don't really make a distinction on the value or the importance of each of those roles. The ADA does recognize some over others, but having an emotional support dog could be life-saving to someone with like clinical depression, where maybe they don't need a service dog to perform a specific task, but the role and the comfort that that dog provides could be just as important as what a service dog would provide to someone who can't see. So really important to just emphasize that always. I know there's a lot of misuse of, service dogs, emotional support animals, and I think there has become an idea that an emotional support animal might not be as important or as valuable, but we know we have seen so many instances of people who benefit greatly from their emotional support dogs, as well as their service animals, and even the therapy animals that visit some of the facilities. That could be a really life-changing event for someone that experiences it. I'm going to move to our next slide here. So a little bit about our pet-assisted therapy program. Pre-COVID, we were visiting about 1,000 to 1,500 people every month in care facilities. We've been around for over 40 years, one of the longest standing pet therapy programs as part of an animal shelter in the US. And we're really proud of the work we do. Again, it's not diagnosis-based therapy work. We are really just working to bring a smile and bring some love to people that might be in need in care facilities. We visit all over San Diego County. Of course, right now, most of the population that we visit, we're not able to see in person because of health guidelines and wanting to protect those people as well as our volunteers. But we are offering some virtual programming. So we will do some limited in-person activities. We can do like a window visit or a balcony visit where people can come out and wave to us. We're doing virtual visits. We call them our critter crashes. So kittens, puppies, pigs, goats, chickens, all types of animals can come and join in on like a Zoom meeting if someone's hosting that, for their workplace or some of our facilities that we used to visit. We will buzz in and just say hi to those folks that might need a little bit of a smile. And then our Anapals program I wanted to share with you all. This is something that is totally free. We have volunteers that were really missing getting out in the community and seeing the people and interacting with them. So they are, writing letters to those people by request. So people can go onto our website and request an Anapal, and one of our volunteers will write a letter in like a card with little sticker decorations and make it really cute from one of the animals in our care, one of our adoptable animals or one of our therapy animals. So if it's someone that normally takes their dog out on visits, they would write a letter from that dog and include a little picture of the dog in the letter as well. So what we offer when it comes to this topic of service animals, emotional support animals, and therapy animals is we do certify animals for our own in-house pet-assisted therapy program, or PAT. We do assessments on that. Right now we're on hold, but we will be starting that up hopefully in the future. We do offer fee-waived licensing. So if you have a service dog and you need to license them for whatever city you live in, if it's one of our jurisdiction cities, then we will waive the fee for your license. And we do also provide a voluntary registration tag for service animals. So again, it is not legally required to wear a vest or have a tag that says that a dog is a service dog, but we do offer that for people that would like to access that if they are within one of our jurisdiction cities that we provide animal services for. Again, we of course provide animals for adoption, so we have lots of pets that need a home. I do recommend, if someone is looking for a service dog or an emotional support animal, that they really find an animal with that in mind and look for the personality and temperament that's going to do well in public situations, especially for a service animal that would need to be on public transportation and be out and about. It can be difficult to find that right animal with the limited information that we have on animals that come into our shelter. If they've come into as a stray at 4 years old, we don't have a history on how are they with children, how are they with cats. We can do an assessment and help to point people in the direction of pets that we think might have that potential, but we can't guarantee that the animal that you adopt and train yourself will be a suitable candidate to be a service dog, or even be the best fit for you as an emotional support dog based on their temperament and what you're looking for. And then we do offer public obedience classes. These are very general classes. We do different levels from puppy up until the CGC. And then we do have some specialty classes like scent work and sometimes agility type classes that we can offer by contract trainers. Right now, those are all virtual. And then some other services that we just offer in general. If anyone's not familiar with us at San Diego Humane Society, we do offer low-cost spay and neuter resources. Right now, it's by voucher at participating veterinarians. We hope to get back our low-cost in-house spay and neuter services very soon. We are still offering our low-cost vaccine and microchipping clinics. Those are all done curbside, and you can make appointments online. We have our community pet pantry. This is free access to resources like pet food that we offer at all of our campuses, completely free, no appointment necessary. If someone needs a bag of pet food or kitty litter, they can just drive up and access that. And we also have lots of youth programs if anyone has kids at home. We do camps. We have a Halloween program coming up. Right now we're following health guidelines, of course, but during normal times we are having lots of kids coming on campus for tours, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you name it. We have lots of programs available for young animal lovers. And there's a lot more that we do. I'm happy to answer any questions just about San Diego Humane Society if anyone has them. And I think, was there a question in the chat? Oops.
So wonderful. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you use the chat. You can also inbox either myself or Miss Elizabeth, and we can read your question out loud. Or if you want to mute yourself, you can do that as well. I personally love the idea of virtual visits. I think it would definitely spice up some of our meetings, and some of our times that we have to meet with our family too, if you need to break the ice or anything. So yes, they do offer some really great services, Meg. I know I personally have not used the San Diego Humane Society, but I probably will regarding shots for my dog. He is sort of sensitive. Liz knows all about him, but I feel like they do spectacular care with my dog, and they just understand him a little bit differently, I think, since he was a stray and we adopted him than if I went to my regular vet.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, our staff is so good at working with dogs. I actually did my first microchipping clinic myself, where I'm learning how to microchip animals, and they're so patient and really caring with all the animals that come in, really making them feel comfortable and making the people feel comfortable about it, because it can be stressful on both ends. On that note, I did want to share, if anyone, just to give you a taste of our virtual visits, I've moved locations. I'm now in my foster room, which is also my restroom, but I'm gonna show you guys my kittens because I thought people might enjoy seeing kittens. Let me get rid of my background. Oops. Sorry, hi, here I am. Are you guys able to see those guys?
Yes, they are adorable. I agree.
Sleepy, but usually for like a critter crash, we'll have them up and playing and enjoying things. People tend to like seeing kittens, and we're just at the tail end of kitten season right now. So these are some of the last kittens that we'll have come through our nursery. Really cute guys. I just got these guys today. They're about 6 or 7 weeks. There's 3 of them, but the last one is a little bit shy. Yeah, it's sleepy time. Well, again, I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I have a question regarding your paw pantry. How
Mhm.
often is that? And do you have to RSVP or anything like that?
So that's our open hours. Thanks for reminding me of that. We are now open Tuesday through Sunday. So we're only closed on Mondays. And you can come anytime that we're open. So that's anytime between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. We tend to have more volunteer support earlier in the day before 1, but we will take anyone that drives up anytime that we're open. And you don't have to have any type of appointment. You don't need to show proof of income or hardship or anything like that. You just come if you're needing food or needing food and litter are what we have available just right there. Sometimes we have distribution events where we also have leashes and collars, toys, and other things, but at our curbside, we just provide those basic resources for pet owners.
Oh, that's awesome. And what type of donations do you take for the pantry?
Oh, so we can take any type of ideally unopened dry dog or cat food, wet food for dogs and cats, as well as clumping cat litter. Those are our main needs. And then, we will take any type of donations to any of our shelter. We do have, I can put it in the chat, our wish list that's on our website. It changes from time to time based on the season. Like I said, kitten season is winding down. And so we'll be needing less of some of the kitten supplies and more maybe for our wildlife or other animals that we see coming in more in the winter months. But right now, up until now, it's all been kitten focused. We actually hold a kitten shower every year where we gear up for kitten season with all the things that we need, like the litter and the wet food and bedding and things like that they need. So that they actually provide all these things that you see here, the bed and toys and everything. They provide me with litter and everything that I need to foster, and that goes for any volunteer that fosters. They get all those supplies, and it's all pretty much through donation.
That's awesome. And I often see this on my next door, but do you guys take if you wash the sheets like old bedding or anything like that? Is that need? Sometimes I see that on my next door app.
Yep, yeah, definitely. Lightly used, as long as it doesn't have like a lot of fraying or holes, just because that can get tangled in our washing machine. But yes, we're always in need of towels, blankets, even like bath mats. Like this one is something that they use there. Yeah, anything like that. We just can't take like pillows, used pillows, usually not actual pet beds unless they're brand new, just because we don't have a ton of storage for bigger bulky items and they're harder to put through the washing machine. But if it's been washed, we can take any type of like bedding, blankets and sheets and towels.
Awesome, thank you. Are there any other questions for Miss Laura? Okay, I will also include her information in the follow-up email. So if you guys have questions or if you need anything from her, please feel free to follow up with her. And last but not least, we have Miss Catherine from United Through Reading.
Hi, thank you. Let me get my screen together here, all my open windows. Okay, can everybody see that? You can see that, Jordan?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to be brief, but I just want to say thank you, Caitlin and Laura, for all the amazing information. I'm going to change gears just a smidgen on you, and I hope that what I am going to give you some information on is comforting as an emotional support animal, or possibly can provide some type of therapy for therapy, but probably not in the same category. So once again, my name is Catherine Homburg, and I work for United Through Reading. We are a nonprofit. We've been around for 30 years. A little tidbit of information. We started on the docks down in San Diego with a Navy spouse whose husband went on deployment. And when he came back, their toddler did not recognize him. And as a special education employed special education provider, she wanted to take what she knew and then had a passion for, and then her problem, and she created a problem, or created a solution, and that was United Through Reading. So we are here with a mission to connect military families and through any type of geographical separation. And that even is loose in saying geographic is, it's all relative. I mean, geographic could be you work a midnight shift and you're geographically not available and somebody could use some support. Right now, anybody that is active duty can participate, as well as retirees and veterans. And then who can you read to? We have a couple of, we're working on some other things, but mostly you read to a child with that you have intentions on staying connected to. We were trying, anyway, we won't go into that. Sorry. I'm sorry I even started it. So we're trying to work it. So it could be anybody that you determine that you want to stay connected to. It could be a child, a grandchild, a nephew, niece, a godchild, your best friend's child, and you're transitioning out and you don't want to be a stranger to that child. So this is a good way to be familiar to them. And then of course, we are all about reading and we love reading. And I don't know why anybody would ask why you should read, but that I guess it could be a possibility. So it's just so good to promote literacy. It's so good to stay connected to each other. And then of course, reinforcing family routine. I mean, most of the time that's how I get my kids to calm down. It's like, okay, it's reading time, TV off, let's go to bed. Because if you rip them away from the TV to go to bed, it's a rough bedtime, that's for sure. So we are super, super fortunate here in San Diego, and we have a lot of different options for recording. There's embedded story stations. So what we do, I think I might have skipped over this a little bit, but what we do is we record our service members reading stories so that they can stay connected to kids in their lives. And there are many capacities in which we can do that. And we have our embedded story stations, which typically go with our military unit. So our service members can volunteer to facilitate the program. We provide everything to them, and say they're going on deployment, they go on a ship, they're stationed in Kuwait. They can then, somebody in the unit can create the recordings for our service members to then send back home. So they can do that through the duration of their deployment. It does not even have to be deployed. That can even be stateside as well. Any unit can do this. We also have our app. We are so 21st century. We have our own app that makes it self-recorded. So you can literally sit in your office, in your family room, in your kid's bedroom, prop up your cell phone and just record yourself reading a book on our app. And there's a lot of comfort in that when the kids are watching their service member reading them a story in that very familiar setting, or using their favorite stuffy that they can then hold while they're reading that story. The next is a location story station, which we do have quite a few. At MCRD, our location story station happens to be the school liaison officer. Fortunately, you guys are not really operating much down in San Diego. So boo-hoo-hoo, but that is an option when the world gets back to normal a little bit. And then we have our pop-up story station. So this is something that's event-based, something like your Christmas party, and you want to have us come out, we can set up in like a corner and kids can read, service members can read like books to the kids, and right then and there, you will get your video and your book to the kids. So, or it could be that, I'm sorry, it's 7 o'clock. My clock is going off in the background. Or it could be that you're having a unit party on the beach, and we go out and we just can help you set up a spot out there and we can do recordings out there. The reason we are so super lucky in San Diego is we have what's called a mobile story station. So the mobile story station is a 32-foot long van that has been gutted and set up to look like you're in like an office. It's got a plush, well, it used to have a plush armchair. It has a vinyl armchair. COVID, we got to be able to sanitize everything. It has a bookcase. It doesn't look like you're in a mobile vehicle, but we can take that to different events. We can do recording sessions at a unit for a unit and do, even if we did it pre-scheduled events. So that is an amazing feature. We are the only ones that have that on the West Coast, even though United Through Reading is all over the world. So that's really cool that we're really special here. So there's a lot of things that we can do. And one thing I want to touch base on one more time is just our app. We launched our app in last May, and it's fantastic. It's supported through Google and Apple. And you do have to, we do use ID Me to verify your military status. If you've ever shopped at the exchange online, they use ID Me as well. I believe USAA uses ID Me. It's not an uncommon thing to verify your military status utilizing that. It might not look familiar to you because we don't use it all the time, but it is very common. The thing that is amazing about it is that even the program is based on promoting literacy in kids and keeping us service members connected and boosting their morale by them knowing the kids really appreciated this. So part of when you make your recording is you can request a book. You can use our app and still request a book, and that comes through the form of an email. Once you get an email that says, hey, somebody sent you a book, or excuse me, somebody sent you a recording. We have this amazing grant because we are a nonprofit, but we are all about promoting literacy as well. We have this amazing grant. If you would like to order a book, please click on the link, and you can click on the link. So basically you're talking about every recording equals one free book for the kids. And then you can read as often as you want, as many times as you want. We had somebody, I think last month, that read 39 books. And we red flagged it. We're like, hey, what's going on? And we kind of reached out to that service member. Is everything okay? Yes, they're getting ready to go on deployment, and they just wanted to make sure that they had plenty of books read before they even left. 39 books in 1 month. That is a committed parent right there. I love that. And you can record anytime, anywhere. So the beautiful thing about the app is, especially for us here in San Diego, we do a lot on the ships. Even if you're the Marines, you're on the ships with the Muse a lot. You do not have to have internet access to make a recording. Our recordings can be made offline, and they go to a cloud. And then when you get internet access, then you send it out from the cloud. You download the videos and send that away. So say they're sitting on ship board waiting for the next port call. This is a great way to pass the time, is they can pull out their phone or pull out their tablet, and they can even make their own recordings based on that. And then of course, why not use FaceTime or some of these other amazing features, Skype, WhatsApp, with the kids can talk to their parents all the time. I think that's amazing. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've gotten at 3 a.m. and there's no way I'm waking up children at 3 a.m. to go talk to their dad. And sometimes dad is not available or not accessible when the kids need dad. And this gives us a good opportunity to say, you know what, dad's not available, but let's watch dad's video. Let's watch grandpa's video. You know what, we at MCRD, we work with a lot of young service members, and this is their first time away from home, and they have younger siblings. So this is something that we've seen myself in the San Diego area a lot of, is I see young Marines recording for their siblings, which is really, really neat. I think it's late, and I think that my brain is not processing as well as it should be. So I am very happy to take any questions. Like I said, my name is Catherine Homburg. I'm the program assistant for United Through Reading here. I actually do this whole Southwest region. So I go all the way up to 29 Palms, all the way down to San Diego, and a little bit over to the west. Barstow and what have you. I'm happy to answer any questions. Please take down my contact information. I will add it to the chat in just a second as well. And I will be, I'm here, I work for a nonprofit. I mean, just like these other ladies, Laura and Caitlin, we are just here to answer all your questions and empower you. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Catherine. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat. You can direct message either myself or Miss Elizabeth. We are more than happy to read them out loud. Um, one question for you. Are you guys still doing those mobile stations right now? And how do they find you here in San Diego?
Right. So we are doing, believe it or not, isn't that crazy? I'm not gonna lie, I think it's wonderful. Because we have adapted to the health protocols. We used to have like this beautiful blush. This is how I'm saying it's tired. I'm just laid out. This beautiful plush chair in there. We actually took it out. We put a vinyl chair in there. So we are addressing same issues. We're keeping our distance. We're wiping everything down in between service members. We've gone to trying to use because we record off of the app. If you visit us and we have the capabilities, we also use the app, but we use a stylus to try, and then you can easily wipe that down as opposed to having to wipe down the screen in between every visitor. We want you to look at the books to choose the best book, but we also are there to help you choose books without maybe having to touch more than you need to. So we are addressing that, but yes, we are actually doing events. I'm doing my coworker did an event down in San Diego at the Armed Services YMCA today. I'm doing 2 events in Northern San Diego County this week with the mobile story station and offering recordings. So we are staying busy. We're just trying to keep it pre-registered so we don't get crowds of people, but like, hey, we're doing this reading event. So you get a 15-minute window to sign up for, pop in, do your recording, pop out. That gives me enough time to wipe everything down behind you. And then the next person shows up. So I hope that addresses your question. So, and then of course, you can find us on, we're on all social media, more than I know anything about. So no, we're on Facebook. We do have an events page on our website, which is unitedthroughreading.org. And as well as I know we're on Twitter, and I think LinkedIn. I know way more social media than I know anything about.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. And I will be sure to link out that events page for everyone so you can easily find where United Through Reading is here in San Diego. But if you have any questions, I know I was just joking with Catherine before we started, but like my husband is out on a mute right now, and actually Miss Elizabeth is like, well, why doesn't he read for your dog? Because my dog has really bad separation anxiety. I'm like, that is genius. you know.
Well, and in all honesty, I've had a gentleman showed up and he said, "Can I read anything? You can read anything you want." And I said, "Yeah, you can read anything you want." He read the driver's training manual to his daughter, who was going to be going through driver's training while he was gone. If it's Game Informer, if it's the newspaper, it doesn't matter what it is, but because it is so important to hear your voice sometimes than to stay connected. And I love the fact that you can engage, especially people who say, oh, our kids are too old. They're never too old. Read the first page of like a really intense book, or read the first chapter of, Treasure Island, and tell them, hey, I can't wait for you to finish it and tell me how it turned out. So there's always potential to engage over literature, which I love, even with animals.
That's a great idea. I love that idea, especially if, middle school, high school age, you have a reading list of books, and to start off that first chapter of reading it together to make it a little bit more bearable to do. That's a great idea. And I will connect you with Caitlin afterwards, just an FYI, because they have a potential partner children's book author that they've worked with in the past. And
That's
so
great. I look
that,
forward to it. Thank
yeah,
you.
that would be a great connection. So thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank
And
you.
one last time for questions for Miss Catherine, so you don't have to hear my voice. Okay.